Hello. Today we're going to talk a little bit about why bother doing these things. Why bother doing tree? Why bother um, meditating? Why bother trying to be mindful in any capacity? Like, what's the point? And kind of how does it all work? Big questions. I'm going to do my best to answer them succinctly. First off, the definition of yoga is control of the modifications of the mind. Yoga is control of the modifications of the mind. I've put control in air quotes because I don't know that we necessarily need to control the modifications of our mind, or that we can, but that's essentially what we're working with. Okay, so why do tree? Why do shavasana? That's the lying down at the end. Why do downward dog? Why do any of it? Like, that's my body. What does that have to do with control of the modifications of my mind? What we do with and to our body, we do with and to our mind. And what we do with and to our mind, we do with and to our body. For example, if I'm in, let's just say even just right now, I'm just going to stay in my chair. I'm in a seated mountain pose. I'm focusing on my feet touching the ground. I'm focusing on my sit bones touching the chair. I'm noticing my shoulders down away from my ears. My hands are in my lap and I closed my eyes. I could also gaze at a drishti, a single point on the floor, or soften my gaze anywhere. So what is that accomplishing? Well, I've done a few things. I've brought stillness to my body. I've brought focus and attention to what my body is doing. I've brought some concentration and intention to what I'm doing with my body, some awareness. Turns out, just in that simple act, for that moment, I brought focus, attention, stillness, calmness to my mind. What I did to my body, I did to my mind. Same thing with our mind. So if we're having tons of scary thoughts, scary, upsetting, stressful thoughts, boom, that happens in our body. So for some people, it's more accessible to work on the thoughts, and that can calm their body. For some people, it's more accessible to work on their body, and that can calm their thoughts, or focus, or build, or strengthen, right? It's not only being like calm all the time, which is my next point. So I'll just get into my next point. So, how do we manage this, what we're trying to accomplish? Practice. Is practice easy or hard? Hard. The hardest move in yoga is getting out the yoga mat. Toss up between getting out the yoga mat and then actually doing shavasana, that rest at the end. Very hard, very challenging. We need to do hard things. Okay? And in yoga, we talk about kind of stepping into our dharma. There's this character in one of the texts, Arjuna, who realizes throughout the course of the story that his dharma is, he doesn't like it. It's hard and it's scary. I wouldn't like it either. His dharma, his purpose that is completely aligned with what he can contribute in the world. It's hard. And yet, by the end of the story, this is Bhagavad Gita, by the end of that story, he's got acceptance, he's got clarity of purpose, so he's very strong in his why. And he's just gonna go ahead and, well, we think he's gonna step into it. So I was talking to one of my yoga therapist friends the other day, and we were talking about building our business, and I kind of like it. I have an MBA and I used to work in tech, and I had a copy editing business in my 20s, and so I kind of like that part. Some people can't stand it at all. I don't love it. Like, my dharma is actually yoga and helping, but what I said to her is, maybe this is our version of stepping into our dharma, focusing on the business, doing the hard things. Like, I'm gonna learn how to get on TikTok. So look for me on TikTok. I know I have to go a lot faster on TikTok, so I'm gonna practice. Hang on. Doing the bookkeeping. Going on Facebook and, like, I'm in Messenger talking to people, and it's scary because I don't want to bug them, but they reach out to me. But it's like, how much engagement, and what do I say? It doesn't feel natural to me. And I don't love Facebook. I never have. But it's like, who cares? Just do it. It's where people are, and that's just one example. It doesn't have to be Facebook, but step into your dharma. Like, get over yourself. Do hard things. But also have ease and balance and self-compassion. How do I do that? Well, a yoga practice can be a very good kind of avatar or example of doing a hard thing, but not bringing in injury, not harming ourselves. So, a yoga practice is a really good example. Basically, we bring that awareness, so the thoughts in our mind, how our body is feeling. So bring the awareness into, okay, well, I have an opinion, I have a strong dislike for such and such, and yet I want to step into what I think my dharma is. And also, our dharmas change, so that's okay. So do the hard thing with mindfulness and staying current in the moment. So, like, if your hard thing is that you have 20 hours of work that you need to do in a day, that's often the case. Yeah, it is for me, and I bet it might be for you. Work of various kinds. Well, okay, so I need to do the hard thing. I'm stepping into my dharma. Well, first we check, is this part of my dharma? Is it an old dharma, and has my dharma changed? It doesn't change a lot, but it can change like a few times during the course of our lives. So is this particular work actually part of my dharma? It's a really good thing to consider. Secondly, am I behaving according to my deepest values and what I know to be true? So, for example, when people do all 20 hours of the work in a day, Are they eating? They're not moving, probably, unless it's physical work. They're not sleeping enough, because we do need at least 7 hours. I mean, people argue this, but we need 8, but like we could get it down to 7 hours of sleep. We need rest. We need social time. We need connection. If we have a pet, we need to play with our pet, and our pet needs us to play with them. Our family needs us. If you have a garden, you need to get out in your garden. If you're doing some batch cooking, you have to get your batch cooking going. Like, how do you manage all of it? How do you keep your house in some semblance of order? What are your deepest held values? We need to behave in accordance with those. And so, how do we do that? Do the hard thing. It's 20 hours of work. Let's say we can whittle down to 18. There are 18 hours of work that are actually part of my Dharma. The other 2 hours, it was just busy work, old Dharma. Okay. 18 hours of work. It's still enough. I only have 24 hours in this day. That's where I get to the next part. And I can't take credit for this next part. It's my very wise and very successful brother. I have 3 wonderful brothers. One of them said this thing to me many years ago. He said, "Cami, there's always too much work. I don't manage my work. I can't manage my work. I manage my time." I manage my time. Now, what that means is I'm going to get out for my daily walk. I'm going to do my stretches. I'm going to do my batch cooking. I'm going to eat my 3 meals a day. I'm going to eat an apple as a snack. I'm going to make sure I have an apple as a snack. That means going to the store or growing an apple tree. But I have 18 hours of work. How do I decide which of those 18 hours I'm actually going to get done in, like, let's say 10 hours? Well, our values, some of it, that's a whole like time management thing. But we can look to the practice of our yoga or whatever your daily practice is going to be. For some people, they look to prayer. Like, okay, so God, what do you want me to do today? Or some people look to their journal, or they just write a list and point and do that thing and cross it off and then do another thing. There are different ways to manage that part. And then where a yoga practice comes in is that you can't do all the things. Like, there are 8 branches of yoga. Movement is one of them. Concentration is another one. Meditation is another one. There are 8. Sense withdrawal. So like withdrawing is a whole practice of yoga. But you're not going to do all of them at every given practice. And so you can look for clues and cues. Like, okay, my body right now is feeling such and such. My week so far has been such and such. Do I feel called to be very vigorous? Do I feel called to be very gentle and interior? Do I do kind of the same things every day automatically? But then I do other things according to those other factors I just brought in. And we do the same thing with figuring out, like, those 18 hours of work, what's actually going to get done in a 10-hour period. We do hard things with compassion. Because that's all that works, actually. So to be our most effective, We have to have self-compassion. We build awareness, concentration, the ability to focus. And that makes these other things easier. We figure out our deepest values. We figure out what do we think our Dharma might be. And all of that can be encompassed in your daily practice, whether it's yoga or something else. So why bother doing a seated mountain? When I do a seated mountain, I'm practicing all these things. What I do to my body, I do to my mind. What I do to my mind, I do to my body. It's hard to have the discipline to make myself stop and go and come outside and sit and all that. It's hard to make myself do that. I love watching stuff and goofing around, but it's like, no, Kim, you gotta do your stuff. And then we manage our time, because there's always too much. If you take in all the different categories, there's always too much. And we figure all of that out by practicing, adjusting, noticing, being conscious, having fun, relaxing, and then getting back to it and noticing. It's a process. It's a process. We do the hard things. We step into our Dharma. We acknowledge our likes and dislikes and thoughts and opinions and feelings and all of that without being like led by the nose by them. We acknowledge them, we bring consciousness to them. And then we also notice, yes, and that part of me that is observing this thought, feeling, opinion, emotion, that's my true self. That's the part that's like in charge. The thoughts, the emotion, the opinion, that's one part, and it got like coded in my brain over time. So there you are, a little bit more about why we bother doing these things. And I'll see you on TikTok. Stepping into my Dharma. Boom, boom. Bye.